All right.
Got it.
Of Hellwitch. Welcome,
Ah,
and Faces of Rock. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm sitting outside in the sauna of South Florida. It's like 85 degrees out, and I'm sitting outside enjoying the weather.
Any alligators around you?
Probably, yeah. That might be right. Yeah, the Everglades are right over there, like a couple miles. So yeah, there's probably some around here.
We could be getting some unexpected guests, I suppose.
Yeah, if I cut it short and you hear me screaming and I'm dragged away, you know what happened.
So, all right, let's get a little bit serious. It's been nearly 15 years, 14 to be exact, since your last studio album. What's been going on with Hellwitch?
Well, we did that album in 2008, 2009, and we were, really having a problem with our drummer. So after that album was done, we didn't even see each other for probably 2 years. And then we got back together to do a tour in 2011. And it was, it was still really slow going, having him in the band. So we didn't really do much. We, the three of us worked on a couple songs, but he wasn't committed to the band, and he wasn't even into metal really anymore. So we just kind of floundered there for a few years because we didn't have any other prospects. I mean, we looked into getting a couple other guys, but it didn't work out. And when Brian joined in 2015, Brutal Brian, that's when things started to actually happen again. And I mean, within the first 2-3 years he was in the band, we wrote like 3-4 songs, got the old songs all back up and running, and it was then became a productive unit again. So that was kind of the hold up there. And then we signed a listenable in 2019, and we were scheduled to start recording like around the beginning of late 2019, early 2020. And yeah, what happened then with COVID, so that didn't happen. And the songs were all basically ready to go 3 years ago, but we couldn't get them recorded until 2022. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what's been going on.
When do you usually decide the time is right to write new music? Or do you write all the time?
When I'm in the mood.
And what kind of a mood are you talking about? Like what needs to happen? What needs to be in place? What stars need to align? Or what gates of hell needs to be open?
Yeah. Well, all 7 of them. And usually, like, I'll get into a mood after listening to some kind of a classic recording or something that really excites me. And I noticed that when I listen to something that really excites me, it'll carry on through the day. And days like that, like a lot of times I will feel creative and sit in my office and record a bunch of riffs and try to get stuff together. But the way it works is I probably come up with half a dozen parts, and then I'll wait a few days, a week, and I'll be revisiting those 5 or 6 parts that I've come up with. And usually 1 or 2 make it, and the other 4 or 5 I'll decide, no, it's just kind of average. It's not really not really holding up. So I will inevitably just get rid of probably 75% of what I write.
And I actually have a question about this down the line, which we'll get to it. As you were writing these songs, how did you want this album to sound? Did you have like a vision before it became a reality?
No. I just wanted to get all these songs put on an album, and I mean, we went through and decided what was good and what wasn't good, and what we could do to fix up a couple of the songs from '94, and brought back the song Hellwitch from '85, and revived that, and wrote a couple things to finish that off, and added the orchestral intro. But no, there was no real vision. It was just, as with all Hellwitch albums, just to put out the most brutal, interesting, original, not sounding like any other band thing that we could come up with.
That is definitely true. So I'm noticing that all of the songs, especially the new songs, have very deep structures to them. They are complicated but extremely heavy at the same time. What progress are you observing while listening back or examining this record?
I think when I go back and listen to it, I mean, I hate to say it at this point, I'm very tired of listening to it. But when we were, doing the early drafts of it and like the demo versions, I would listen for things that were not exciting. The song got to a point that really was kind of maybe dragging a little bit, I would rework that part, shorten it or change it or do something, add vocals to it, add a solo to it, add a guitar harmony to it to boost it up a little bit. So really that's kind of the formula. I go back and listen, and when I think a part isn't really happening, if I were a listener, would I just be sitting there going, yeah, it's whatever, it's okay, and then I don't want that. So that's when I decide that things need to be changed or amended and fixed up to be better.
And you're so right about this. When I listen to the album again today, not a dull moment. It just moves forward nonstop.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Yeah, man. It like I said, we spent a few years definitely working on it, and I have demos of all the new songs. Brian and I did demos, multiple demo tapes of the new songs, and what you hear on the album is by far, the best versions. Totally, not totally changed, but upgraded, intensified. Just up the ante on all the new songs from what they were.
Do you think the record will be your defining moment?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have people say the first album is the best album. So I don't know. I can't say. I mean, for me, I would say the first album is more original than this album, but I would say this album is better than the second album. I think I like this album better than the first one because the musicianship is better and the timing is better, and the performances are better, and it wasn't rushed like the first album was rushed. So yeah, but defining moment, I don't know.
I love the early demos in the first album, but
Yeah.
it sounds like state-of-the-art Hellwitch, if there ever was one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and again, I mean, I wasn't really thinking about making it sound up to date or whatever. I just do my thing, and I come up with sounds with what sounds interesting to me, and I listen back and I think, okay, yeah, that's better than my contemporaries are doing now, and this is better than what the competition is doing, I think. So when it sounds like that to me, I know that I'm expressing what I need to express.
Well, the cool thing is that there's like, I mean, I've known your music for a long, long time, and there's like no compromise whatsoever. Yet it's like you're on your path. I mean, you're not really even looking at what everybody else is doing. This is like Hellwitch moving forward and punching with, in the gut.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, and I mean, I have to say the last album, Omnipotent Convocation, was written by pretty much all the band members, almost every song. And, that was a something we were trying. We actually were trying to come up with something that might be a little bit more, palatable for everyone. And on this album, I took back the reins. I wrote 90% of all the music, all the titles, all the lyrics. And yeah, I think this is the way we're going to be going in the future, because I like the last album a lot, but like I said, I like this one a lot better. And it seems everyone else does too. So this is the path. This is the future of Hellwitch now.
You have a sticker, 100% Pat.
I I need a little help every now and then, but I try to drive the car, as it were, try to steer the ship in the right direction.
So when you
my bandmates Brian and JP, they definitely, they input ideas, and give me advice, and we do work on things together. I mean, there are things that had harmonies where JP and I went back and forth, and he had a different harmony, then we tried another harmony, and we finally agreed no harmony was better. So we do collaborate. I mean, I write it, I wrote a lot of the parts, but we did collaborate a lot on things. And Brian, came up with a lot of his own drum fills and drum rolls and all that. And so yeah, it was definitely still a collaboration, but I pretty much guided things, myself.
Also, like you mentioned before, finally you gave the song Hellwitch another life. How come? And why now?
Okay. Well, when I did the rough demo of that in 85 and I listened back to it, it just, I mean, at the time I did a demo of it and I thought it was lacking. I'm like, oh, this doesn't really go. Like, it just doesn't flow. It's like the parts don't really, it wasn't exciting at all. And I just was lazy and just thought, oh, you know what? I could come up with a whole bunch of other songs, and screw this song. I'll just, leave it alone. Forget about this song. This song is done. And then when we put out the 30th anniversary box set, the Compilation of Death, First Possession box set, I was compiling music, digitally for that. And I figured, well, what the hell, this song Hellwitch, I never traded it. I never gave it out. And I heard, I found the tape and I listened to it and I'm like, that's not that bad. It's kind of cool. It needs a little work. And I thought, I'm like, okay, I know I can hear now in my 60-year-old mind, I hear what needs to be changed and what needs to be done to salvage this, because it's got potential. So hearing it while compiling that gave me the incentive to bring it back. And then after that, I immediately learned the parts that I had written. I listened to that demo a few times and played through it, did a rough recording of it, added a couple things, changed some of the parts that were there. And, it was important to me too, because I've always been impressed when, a band has a song of their name, like Iron Maiden, Exodus, stuff like that. Like, I've always thought it was cool when a band has a song that is their name. And I've always liked those songs. So doing Hellwitch, I was like, this has got to really kind of encompass the spirit and the feeling and the legacy of what Hellwitch is about. And I think it does. I mean, I think I put that song up there with songs like Mortarivial Dissemination, where it is a journey with different parts, a middle section with different parts, an orchestral beginning, and it goes all over the place. And I think Hellwitch is definitely one of the best songs one of my favorites on the album, definitely.
I'm loving it too. Definitely.
Cool. Thanks, Mark.
Song you brought back, probably one of your more signature songs, is Torture Chamber. So what made you revisit that song?
Well, again, Torture Chamber was on the 86 demo, the 94 demo, and neither one was really what, it was supposed to be. I mean, the way you hear it on the album, that's kind of the way it's supposed to be. There was supposed to be a sound effects kind of horror beginning. There was supposed to be a little something in the middle with effects. And, the picking was supposed to be super fast, like the whole time. And the 86 demo had the picking, but the musicianship was kind of, so-so. And there were no effects, because I didn't know in 86, first time in the studio, I didn't know how to, and we were at a studio that wasn't known for metal. So I really had no idea how to bring that in and put that on the demo. So we just kind of forgot about it. And then the 94 demo version, again, that was done in like a little warehouse in Miami for a couple $100, and didn't really have the resources to, in 94 digitally add sound effects and mix them in and this and that. So that kind of, I did change the song Torture Chamber on the 94 demo. It is a revised version of the song, but this is the this is the signature version. This is the final version of what Torture Chamber has supposed to was supposed to sound like from the beginning. And now, it finally is just as it should be, to go into metal history with this version. This is it.
This is the final torture.
This is it. The final torture. Yes, this is it. You're dead. After listening it to this time, you better be dead, and we'll dig you up later.
I'm told the vinyl will have a Leonard Skinner cover.
Yes, the vinyl, the CD, and the cassette will all have the Leonard Skinner cover of Sweet Home Alabama.
Now, that one I haven't heard. Tell me a little bit more insights as to how it came to be.
Well, you probably remember this, but I mean, when we started in 84 and then we're starting to play shows in 85 in Gainesville, Florida, which is, northern Florida. That's where the University of Florida is located. That's how the band basically got together. We were all college students at UF. We only played with punk bands in Gainesville. There was no metal. In 85, we were the metal scene in Gainesville, but we were fortunate enough that the punk rock crowd, which was pretty big in Gainesville, they thought we were cool. They were like, oh, these guys are like our local Slayer. These guys are cool. And so we got to open every single punk show that came to Gainesville. And, we did covers of Adrenaline OD and, SOD, and just did, we messed around with a few other punk songs, but didn't play them live. And, that was a big part of Hellwitch in the beginning, was the punk rock sound, the punk rock theme. And probably around 03, 04, after our hiatus, when we, got back together, when Joe and I got back together, I would screw around with the beginning of Sweet Home Alabama. And Joe kind of came up with the fast beat for it. And we would just play part of it and, stop playing. And eventually, we kind of organized it into a 1-minute song, a 1-minute punk rock song, and with different lyrics and everything. And when we would tour, well, not tour, but when we played shows in like 05, 06, 07, we found that we really had good turnouts and a lot of interest in Alabama when we'd be playing Huntsville and Birmingham. And so whenever we'd play in Alabama, we would play Sweet Home Alabama. That was the only time we would play that song, is when we were in Alabama. And when it came time to do Annihilational Intercention, we were thinking about doing a cover. And Brutal Brian suggested, he's like, well, why not Sweet Home Alabama? And I was like, I don't know. And Brian said, it sounds cool. And he goes, it's different. It's not what people will expect. It is good. It has satanic lyrics. It's everything that it, needs to be on a Hellwitch album. And so, we with Brian's kind of, insistence on that, it ended up on the album.
Killer. Now, you had been around since 1984, as you just mentioned. Tell me about those early days of the band.
Well, I mean, the early 84 was me and Harry Tyler, my college roommate. We were high school buddies. We were both into underground tape trading. We were both totally into the same music. Like, we lived and breathed underground metal. And this was, I'm talking 81, 82. And so we were roommates at UF at one point. And he, I was starting to get decent on guitar. I was starting to learn the style of like Slayer and Metallica. Before that, I mean, I grew up, in the late 70s playing AC/DC and Judas Priest and a little bit of, like whatever, Ted Nugent. And then when I heard the Metallica demo and I heard Dave Mustaine soloing, I was like, I need to be doing this. Then I heard, Slayer, I heard Venom, I heard Angel Witch, I heard, all of that good stuff. And I just dropped everything rock and roll and heavy metal that I was playing and focused on picking fast, playing fast. And, that I knew that's what I wanted to do with the guitar. I wanted to play as fast as possible. And Harry suggested one day that we do a demo of a song. And I'm like, he doesn't play, he didn't play any instruments. He still doesn't. And, I'm like, well, what are we going to do? And he says, well, you could play the guitar and I'll sing. And I'm like, there's no drums. And he says, well, we can make drums. And I'm like, you could make drums. And so I said, how about like the kitchen seat cushion, which was vinyl. It was a, vinyl seat, 70s furniture seat cushion on our kitchen chair. And we taped a microphone to it, and he hit it with he had 2 drumsticks, and he hit it with a drumstick, and it sounded more or less like a clicky bass drum. And then he said, we thought about what could we do for a snare drum. And I said, well, just anything higher in pitch could be a snare drum. And so we taped a paperback book to the seat cushion. So he hit the seat cushion here and the paperback book here, and the microphone was right here. So, he just went, he went like that. And we had him playing that live through my speakers in my living room of our living room stereo in our apartment. So I played the guitar and he played the drum beat, and we recorded, left channel on a cassette deck, me doing guitar, him doing a drum beat. Then we played that back and did a right channel on another cassette deck, piping that left channel into the cassette deck as, the left channel. Then we recorded a right channel live, and he sang, and I did another guitar track. And I botched it. I didn't do the solo at the beginning. And we tried to do another take, and I just kept fucking it up. And I was like, fuck it, man. I'm like, it's done. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, I don't want to sit and spend time doing this. This is stupid. And so we kept, the best of the first take, which is what ended up being the Nosferatu demo. And I told him, I said, don't give that to anybody. I go, that's really bad. It's really shitty. And he's like, oh yeah, no problem. And he tape traded it like the next day. So probably, within a month, we started getting mail. And I was like, why are guys writing to me and who are not tape traders? Like, what do they want? And, this guy from, you ever heard of the band Quicksand?
Yeah. That's right.
You've heard of them. Okay. The lead guitarist of Quicksand is the first guy that ever wrote to Hellwitch. And he wrote to me, and he's like, oh, I have a magazine and I want to interview you. And I was like, wow, okay, all right. So yeah, that was kind of the start. Like, we started getting mail due to that crappy little homemade demo. And, and then I realized after a few letters and a few interviews, and, it's starting, the tape started to make the rounds. The demo started, I'd get tape trading lists, and our demo, the Hellwitch demo, would be on a list. And I'm like, geez, I'm like, I didn't send it to this person. They got it through tape trading. So it must be okay. It must be good. And at that point, I realized that the band should probably continue. So, I found a drummer, Dave Silverthrash in Gainesville. He was at UF with us, and Andy Adcock, he was at UF with us. And I recruited them, to play in Hellwitch. And, I basically had to teach Dave how to play drums because he barely could even play. And Andy was already pretty good. He was a good guitarist, good bass player. So yeah, then there was that actual first lineup of real musicians. And, we did the Transgressive Sensions demo. We finished those songs, wrote those songs in the course of like July of 85 to like November of 85. We had those 4 songs completed. And then we did the demo in January of 86. And that was kind of the first, that lineup did that demo. And then the 87 demo as well. We did that with that same 3-piece lineup. So yeah, that's kind of the early, beginnings of things.
Also, like a year or two later, the entire death metal scene in Florida was developing. And I mean, let's face it, you were part of the movement that later on kind of became the leadership. Like, a lot of the bands who later became very popular were demo bands, and you would play a lot of shows with them. What was that scene like back then?
Well, I mean, what, around like what, 85, 86, 88, 89? What year are you talking about? Because those are very different scenes. Each of those years was kind of different.
I want to say like 85, 86.
Okay, I don't know. We played once with Morbid Angel and Massacre, and once with Nasty Savage, and that was it. Other than that, we played a lot of punk shows with De Kreutzen and Battalion of Saints and Gangrene and DRI a couple times, COC a couple times, Agnostic Front. The Janitorturers, played with them. Played with the Exploited. So yeah, those were the punk scene was great. I mean, the punk kids would go nuts when we played and knock our equipment over and circle pit and go crazy and destroy shit and go totally nuts. And yeah, it was really cool. I have to say, like, going from the punk scene to the metal scene, it was a change. It was different. It was a very different environment. And I remember at first thinking, oh, I like the punk people. I don't like these metal people too much. They're not as cool as the punk people. And but I mean, as time went on, I became in with the metal crowd in Tampa and South Florida. So, but yeah, I mean, in the early days it was only Hellwitch and the punk crowd.
Haven't really been around for as long as you have been. What is your overall perception of death metal?
My overall perception of death metal. Wow, that's a pretty general question, Mark. My overall perception of death metal. Well, it used to be really good in probably 86 to probably 90. And then it started to get a little generic, where you had bands copying the style of popular bands like Suffocation and Cannibal Corpse. And then it just devolved from there to what it is today, which is, I don't know. I don't really listen to it. What I hear on, satellite radio, there's very few bands that are doing anything different. And I mean, I hear stuff sometimes and I hear it and I just think, well, there's a Slayer riff. There's a this riff. There's a Raining Blood riff. There's a, that's an old Anthrax riff. And I basically now everything I hear is just recycled parts of other bands. And there's no one really doing anything, creative or with any spark to it, in my opinion.
That's an interesting take. I knew you were going to go somewhere interesting with that. The new album title, Annihilational Intercention. What does that mean?
Well, it's us interceding with that album and music to help bring about the extermination of mankind. So really, we're interceding for the annihilation of mankind. And that's kind of what's pictured on the cover as well. That's the idea. Man needs to be punished for his existence and wiped off the face of the earth.
All right. That's a pretty bold statement.
I mean, the planet is definitely not getting healthier from the existence of humans on it, yeah, the humans don't know how to take care of their property, so they don't deserve to be here.
What does it take for a band like Hellwitch to survive all of these years?
Me wanting to push forward. and a capable drummer, And no, I mean, seriously, probably, I mean, I've always done it because I like to hear what I write. I like to hear what I write, good quality with a studio recording. So I mean, if we were not signed and had done this album, I would have paid for this album myself and put it out myself on no label. I just would have released it myself. I mean, because I wanted to hear what these new songs would sound like with good production and good sound. And that was my entire goal, really. That's always been my entire goal in recording, just to hear, you know, the stuff I've spent a lot of time writing and honing it and, you know, revamping it and making it better. And I want to hear that final kick-ass version of the song, good quality. And that's my whole drive right there.
And that's a true passion.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, you know, I mean, there's no you know, there's no real drive for success or whatever. I just do it because I want to hear my songs, you know, good quality and whatever. So the musicians I work with, I want to hear their performances good quality.
And how do you go about promoting a new record once you release it?
Well, it seems these days you got to do social media promotion. Oh, Mark, can you hold on a second?
Hang on.
Oh, bro.
We are back. All right. So how do you go about promoting a record like that?
Well, in this day and age, it seems like it's all about the social media. So, we do a lot of promotion on all the social media platforms. And also, Listenable Records has been very supportive and, you know, lining up interviews and promotions for the album. And so we're really grateful for that. And also, I still do snail mail. I still write to magazines like La Muerte from Texas and, you know, Tapes of Hate from Texas and the TZ newsletter from Connecticut and Stan Bowman from Reality Impaired Distribution and Keith Dempy. I still write to all of those guys and spread ads and let them know, you know, that the album is coming and send ads regarding the album for them to spread in the mail. So yeah, you know, we cover all the bases as good as we can as far as that goes, you know, with the social media and the regular physical mail that I do.
Will there be any tour to promote the album?
Well, we just did a tour to promote the album at the beginning of June, which went really well. We toured up the East Coast of the United States, and then we're playing the Destroying Texas Festival next month. And then the month after that, I think, well, no, actually in early October, we're playing the Tampa Death Fest to promote the album, headlining the Friday of the Tampa Death Fest, and then doing another tour of the Midwest, probably late October, early November. And at the end of that tour in early November, we'll wind up playing the Mass Destruction Festival in Atlanta with Bulldozer and Autopsy and some other bands. And then we'll be going to Berlin in December to play the Never Surrender Festival with Verathron and Blasphemy and Revenge and a bunch of other bands. And then next year, we're planning on doing more touring, but as of now, we have another festival set up with Incantation in January of 24. But we're hoping for our 40th anniversary in 24 that, yeah, we're going to do, you know, play a lot more shows.
That sounds like a very intense schedule, as is.
It's going, man. It's going. I can't complain. I'm very grateful.
Excellent. So finally, what would you say keeps you going? I mean, there were never any massive sales, any massive tours. You probably got ripped off more than you've gained. Yet, you still here.
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, it's the passion for the music, man. You know, it's like I said, I don't care who buys it or doesn't, or who likes it or doesn't. You know, I like writing the songs and hearing them for myself and having the satisfaction of knowing that they are better than most other bands. And I think that's a fact. I don't, you know, I try not to be egotistical about it, but I listen to other things and I listen to other bands. And I mean, you know, most of it is not as interesting as Hellwitch. So I you know, do it for my own satisfaction mainly. And as long as I'm interested in doing it, that's how long we will do it. And I really, to tell you the truth, I thought at 60 years old, I would not want to be doing it anymore, but that was wrong. Cause yeah, I feel like Keith Richards now. Like I want to just keep going till I die.
Well, I hope you do.
Mark, I will, just to curse your existence.
That's right. Thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you, Mark. It was great to see you, man. I really enjoyed it. And man, you know, I've known you for 30 plus years now, and you are a stalwart in the underground metal scene. And I've always appreciated all you've done from Tornado up until now. And, you know, much respect for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.